Making headlines for this week of December 15th. Washed down in Washington. Summary from the swamp. Digging for dollars. Audit of U.S. Defense Department may ultimately reveal more than just missing money. Out with the old. Year ends with the U.S. dollar dying, a rise in cryptocurrencies, and a transformation to a new, possibly temporary, financial paradigm. And a new internet. Company claims to have developed decentralized internet that is more secure and private.
With news around, upon, within, and beyond our planet, the program making disclosure official. This is Cosmic Vision News. Here is Jeffrey West.
Greetings and blessings to all. It is, understandably, getting extremely difficult to stay on top of all the revelations that are coming out at this time, especially within the U.S. Sean Hannity of Fox News on December 14th, however, appears to do a good job of linking all the events together and suggests that a witch hunt is underway on President Trump. Here is the introductory news monologue from his program that summarizes everything.
All right, a major development in the Clinton server scandal. You've got to pay close attention tonight. This is going to be a blockbuster hour. We here at Fox News have obtained the draft of James Comey's exoneration statement that let Hillary Clinton off the hook as it relates to the email server. The document shows that the term grossly negligent was in fact changed to extreme carelessness in two places. Remember, grossly negligent is the legal standard, which would have meant that Clinton broke the law. And here's the other piece of new information. In the part where Comey was talking about foreign actors accessing Clinton's server, the word likely accessed was removed. This is national security. All of this continues to prove that the fix was in from the very beginning of what is a farce of an investigation. There was the exoneration before the investigation was anywhere near concluded. And here's why. The draft statement is from May 2nd, 2016. Hillary and others, in her case, wasn't interviewed by the FBI until the 4th of July weekend. So how could this Hillary-loving, Trump-hating FBI agent Peter Strzok reach any conclusion about Clinton's server investigation 2 months before they even interviewed her or other key people? The fix was in. Plain and simple, we now have the evidence. And Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett says, what we just laid out could mean James Comey is guilty of obstruction of justice. That is a crime. That is a felony. We'll hear from him coming up later in the program. Also tonight, Judicial Watch has uncovered an absolutely bombshell report about the special treatment that Hillary Clinton and her top aide, Uma Abedin, were given by the Obama State Department. We now have documents that were obtained through the Freedom of Information Act. It shows that Clinton and her top aide, they were given permission by the State Department to remove both electronic and physical records that they claimed were, quote, personal and, quote, unclassified and non-recorded materials. According to Judicial Watch, this includes records of Hillary Clinton's calls, her schedules, which conveniently will not be made available to you, the American people. Also, in addition to all this, the document shows that Uma Abedin was allowed to take 5 boxes of physical files from the State Department, some of which were described as, quote, Muslim engagement documents. This is beyond outrageous, and it shows that there's a different set of rules and standards for the Clintons and their allies, a two-tiered justice system we have been talking about and warning you about. Make no mistake, this shouldn't be surprising, because it is all part of a pattern when it comes to the Clintons. The fix is in all the time. Fix is in against Bernie. The fix is in here. The fix is in on other issues. Removing, destroying documents, that's now just part of Clinton's standard operating procedures. Now remember, Clinton on her own, 33,000 subpoenaed emails from her personal server. Remember, she deleted them, she acid washed them, she used bleach bit, and guess what? Her raids were smashing mobile devices with hammers, and by the way, they gave the other mobile device to the FBI. It didn't have a SIM card. It was useless. Why? Because Clinton claims they were personal between her and her husband, who doesn't email, and it was about a wedding, a funeral, and yoga and grandkids. Bill Clinton doesn't use email. Here's another wrinkle to this scandal. It's disturbing. It needs to be investigated. According to documents that Judicial Watch received, Clinton's calls, her schedules, were blocked from being made public and were allowed to be removed. Well, that's interesting when you consider this article from the AP in August of 2016. The headline, "Many donors to Clinton Foundation met with her at state." And the article goes on to detail, quote, "At least 85 of 154 people from private interests who met or had phone conversations scheduled with Clinton while she led the State Department, they all donated to her family charity or pledged commitments to its international programs." Now, and according to a review of State Department calendars released so far to the AP, combined the 85 donors contributed as much as $156 million, and at least 40 donated more than $100,000 each, and 20 gave more than $1 million. So is that why Clinton and Aberdeen wanted to remove records of Hillary's calls and schedules? This would have come out in the campaign, and people would have been asking good questions. Now, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, he will be here in just a few minutes. Also tonight, breaking, investigative reporter Sarah Carter is out with damning new details on this controversial NSA surveillance program that may have been used to collect information on Americans without a warrant. Do these people not hear of a U.S. Constitution against unreasonable search and seizure? That would be number 4. Sarah Carter reporting that numerous former intelligence law enforcement officials are now blowing the whistle on this potentially dangerous conduct in the way your government is conducting surveillance. And this is getting scary. According to the report, well, the officials, they were concerned over a practice that is known as reverse targeting, which, quote, occurs when intelligence and law enforcement officials use a foreign person as a legal pretense for their intended target, an American citizen. In other words, without a warrant. In other words, illegal. In other words, no Constitution, no Fourth Amendment. Now, Sarah Carter will also join us in a moment to explain how this practice may have been used as a political weapon. How often have you heard me talk about weaponizing our intelligence community, weaponizing the system of justice we have in this country, dual system of justice? Now, also tonight we have breaking information about how the anti-Trump, pro-Clinton text messages from that FBI agent Peter Strzok and his FBI lawyer girlfriend Lisa Page were discovered. DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz is now revealing that his office requested those text messages from government-issued cell phones of several FBI employees that handled the Clinton email case. In this particular case, there were more than 10,000 of them, text messages between Strzok and his girlfriend Page. Well, as of now, 375, that's it. Fox News was able to obtain. Just those show a severe anti-Trump, pro-Hillary Clinton bias. Now, these text messages include calling Trump a loathsome human being, an idiot. Strzok and Page also disparaging and mocking Trump supporters. And that's just the start of it. Now, here's what is raising all kinds of red flags, and it should. In August of 2016, Strzok texted, "I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk." It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. Fox News believes, we haven't confirmed yet, that Andy in that message is Andrew McCabe. That would be the deputy FBI director. That's the same guy whose wife Jill got $700,000 in donations from Democrats, including Terry McAuliffe up to his eyeballs in this, during a 2015 Virginia State Senate run. That's an obscene amount of money for that race. We also have this exchange. Now, we edited out the middle of it, which contained a web link, and Page says, "And maybe you're meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace." Wow, isn't that great? They take that all upon themselves. Strzok replies, "Thanks. It's absolutely true that we're both very fortunate. And, of course, I will try and approach it that way. I just know it will be tough at times. I can protect our country at many levels. Not sure if that helps." Now, why would Strzok, why would his girlfriend Page, and who we now think is Andrew McCabe, need an insurance policy against Donald Trump if he's on his way to win the election? What exactly did that mean? Now, Judicial Watch just announced that it has filed a lawsuit to gain access to all the FBI records about the removal of Strzok from the Mueller investigation. Here's what the deal is. You, the American people, you deserve answers. There's a lot at stake here. This all reeks of this deep state we've been telling you about and their effort to undermine a candidate that then became president. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that this apparent meeting between Strzok, Page, and McCabe happened during the same time the FBI started its counterintelligence investigation into, quote, possible Trump-Russia ties. And as we've been telling you, this FBI agent, Peter Strzok, is tied to everything. And his FBI lawyer girlfriend also served on Robert Mueller's team. Here's what we know about Strzok. Before being demoted from Mueller's investigation, he was a top counterintelligence official. He was the guy that actually signed the document that kicked off the Russian investigation. Strzok's team also oversaw the handling of the anti-Trump dossier, the Russian propaganda, when it was given to the FBI. He was in charge of the interview of former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. And this is where it gets really interesting. Given Strzok's anti-Trump, pro-Hillary text messages, he also played a pivotal role in this Clinton email exoneration so-called investigation. Now, this includes sitting in on Hillary's FBI interview. Remember, that was in July. In May, they already were writing the exoneration. He was also in the room for the interviews with key Clinton aides, Uma Abedin, Cheryl Mills. And this is the most damning piece of information when it comes to Strzok. He's the guy. He's the one that actually changed the legal standard language in James Comey's exoneration statement about Hillary Clinton from grossly negligent to extreme carelessness. Well, that allowed Hillary Clinton a get-out-of-jail-free card. That allowed the fix to be in from the get-go, even though we know she broke the law. What in God's name is Robert Mueller thinking? To have ever put together this abusively biased, this corrupt FBI agent and so many other people that have agendas on his so-called investigative team. Mueller claims to have, impeccable integrity, a sterling reputation. Why would anybody allow that to happen? And then again, that all seems to make sense when you consider all the Democratic donors that Mueller has handpicked to be part of the investigation. Now, these investigators have given over $50 grand in cash to Democrats, including Barack Obama and, you guessed it, Hillary Clinton. Just one donated to a Republican, and none of them gave any money to the Trump campaign. This entire investigation is corrupt to its core. It has now become a witch hunt. And it's now the time where Jeff Sessions needs to do his job. It's time for you, the American people, to understand this. According to a new poll, 54% say Robert Mueller has a conflict of interest because of his friendship, he's BFF with James Comey. And as we've been telling you, these two are best friends. And as Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett has pointed out on many an occasion, their relationship could also actually be a violation of the law. Calling Attorney General Sessions, where are you? Step up and do your job.
That clip was taken from approximately the 1 minute 30 mark to the 13.5 minute mark. For those wishing to view it, the link to the full program with all the details is available in the show transcript for those needing or wanting to get all of those details. Again, we may not yet have the full picture of what is really going on, but something has shifted dramatically, and it is resulting in exposures and house cleaning within Washington and the U.S., the likes of which I don't think we have seen in our current lifetime. Many will say that Trump is corrupt without acknowledging the corruption on the side of Clinton. Keep in mind that to get to certain levels of power, one has, historically, had to play within those corrupt circles. Trump will very likely have some blood on his hands, as do most political leaders that have had to stand up against the Khazarian mafia or the Rothschilds-controlled central banking system. At some point or another, it may come down not to things that one may have done in the past, but what one is doing in the present to make amends for those things in the past. If we want others to not judge us for things that we have done in our past, it is only appropriate that we give the same courtesy to others, or at least until they demonstrate something that proves them unworthy of that courtesy. In other geopolitical news, while things continue to be exposed and cleaned up within the U.S., a declaration has been made in Iraq suggesting that certain things are coming to an end in this country. Indian news website thehindu.com carried a story from Agence France-Presse on December 10th, reporting that Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi on Saturday declared victory in a 3-year war by Iraqi forces to expel the Islamic State jihadist group that, at its height, endangered Iraq's very existence. Our forces are in complete control of the Iraqi-Syrian border, and I therefore announce the end of the war against Daesh, otherwise known as IS, Mr. Abadi told a conference in Baghdad. As the authorities announced a public holiday on Sunday to celebrate the victory, Mr. Abadi said in a speech that at the Defense Ministry that Iraq's next battle would be to defeat the scourge of corruption. The Islamic State seized vast areas of north and west of Baghdad in a lightning offensive in 2014. Iraq's close ally Iran already declared victory over IS last month as the jihadists clung to just a few remaining scraps of territory. The jihadists' defeat is a massive turnaround for an organization that, in 2014, ruled over 7 million people in a territory as big as Italy, encompassing large parts of Syria and nearly a third of Iraq. On the Syrian side of the border, IS is under massive pressure as well. On Thursday, Russia's defense ministry said its mission in support of the Syrian regime to oust IS had been accomplished and the country was completely liberated. Sadly, AFP, Agence France-Presse, also referred to a source called the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, claiming that rebel forces had made advances in seizing territory. This source has long been exposed as a one-man operation out of Coventry in the UK, funded by the EU and one other, quote-unquote, European country. SOHR was exposed back in 2013 and basically has no credibility at all. Another positive development is the report that Turkey has softened its position on the leadership of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, according to Vladimir Rodzienko, writing for the Duran on December 12th. In light of Russia's announcement of victory in Syria over Daesh terrorists, allowing the legitimate government of Syria to regain a majority of their territory, Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu explained the country's position towards Syria. However, he did clarify that the country will coordinate an operation against Syria's Kurds with Russia if necessary. Although the news is good, there are also the issues of what happens next with regard to the Kurdish populations in Iraq and Syria. One article will be posted in the show transcript that explores this issue in a bit more detail for those who are interested in this topic. While Western media pundits and leaders still try to hold on to their fading story that Russia is responsible for almost everything going on, Russian President Putin went ahead with his annual Q&A session. Putin has become famous for these sessions, speaking for hours and answering questions without teleprompters. This year's session was no different, going on for over 4 hours, and it reflects a much different style for a leader who has been so demonized by Western leaders and yet somehow seems to remain strangely calm, cool, and collected in the faces of journalists present. Adam Gary, writing for the Duran on December 14th, offered 9 things that people needed to know regarding this marathon session. Regarding the Eurasian Economic Union, Putin responded positively, saying that all member states, including Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia, and Belarus, have been working closely to modernize both physical and digital infrastructure across member states. This includes the ability to receive and track items via digital customs forms, as well as joint investment projects. It was brought up in that discussion by a Kazakh journalist that the Eurasian Economic Union was not set up as a response to Western sanctions, which began in 2014, but rather the project was the brainchild of Kazakh President Nursultan Nazarbayev. Putin spoke positively about this, and, as the article notes, with Iran set to join the Eurasian Economic Union in 2018, President Putin's positive response signifies Russia's general optimism about the future of its role as a Eurasian leader. Concerning North Korea, President Putin stated that Russia does not accept the nuclear status of North Korea, but that one must work with a realistic attitude to de-escalate tensions in the region. Putin also roundly condemned U.S. provocations, questioning why this could be reasonably expected to improve the situation. Concerning Syria, Putin stated that he had to go to Syria in order to make his announcement regarding a partial troop withdrawal. He stated that most of the terrorist groups in Syria have been defeated and security issues involving his trip were coordinated with Russian troops in Syria in a highly professional manner. Putin further stated that while working with international partners, including the Syrian government as well as Turkey and Jordan, it is important to help actual Syrian refugees return to their homes in a post-conflict environment. He further stated that children of Russian citizens brought to Iraq and Syria by terrorists should be reintegrated into the social life of various republics and regions of the Russian Federation. Regarding the Ukraine-Donbass conflict, Putin lamented the unwillingness of the Kiev regime to implement the protocols of the Minsk II Accords. He further lamented that even when the Rada, the parliament in Kiev, approved a special status for Donbass in line with Minsk II, Kiev's forces continue to act aggressively. Turning to the power struggle in Kiev between regime leader Petro Poroshenko and former Georgian leader Mikhail Saakashvili, he called the former Georgian leader, who is wanted as a criminal in his home country, pathetic. He asked rhetorically why people from Ukraine aren't able to produce a prospective new leader themselves. The conclusion that Putin drew was that while most Russians and Ukrainians see themselves as a part of a wider fraternal nation, the future is up to the people in Ukraine in respect of how they would like to govern themselves. If they choose to remain totally separate from Russia, this is their choice, and they will have to work to improve their conditions themselves if this is the final decision of Ukrainians. When asked about relations with China and the Belt and Road Initiative, Putin stated that he welcomes the decisions taken by the ruling Communist Party of China in terms of further modernization programs and an increased emphasis on respectful cooperation with international partners via the One Belt, One Road Initiative. He further stated that the Chinese model is similar in many ways to that which Russia is currently building internally and among Russia's international partners. Putin stated that the Eurasian Economic Union and the Belt and Road are compatible and that Russia seeks to participate in broader cooperation in Asia and that progress has been made in this area all the time. The remaining 4 items are summarized this way. Putin confirmed for the first time that he plans to run in the 2018 presidential elections, scheduled for March, as an independent candidate. He stated that he looks forward to engaging in dialogue with many political parties in the hopes of winning their endorsement. Although he was challenged by a woman also running for the presidency, Putin reminded her that the opposition needs to have positive proposals and asked her what she was offering. He reminded her that the Russian people do not want conflict or any situation that resembles what happened in Ukraine. Putin remarked on the unfortunate results of the U.S. unilaterally withdrawing from the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, but said that Russia remains committed to the principles of the treaty in line with Russia's commitment to international protocols. Personally, I think there is something more to this, and that Putin and Trump are using this one in a strategy to achieve something that we do not yet know anything about. When ABC News asked Putin about the ongoing Russiagate scandal in the U.S., Putin stayed clear of the issue, stating that it is up to the American people to assess Trump, not me, referring to Putin himself. But look at the markets. They are up, indicating investors trust him. We also respect the U.S. opposition. I don't know if Trump still has the same desire to cooperate closely with us, referring to Russia, but I hope that we can work closely on a range of issues. With the alleged collusion with Russia by Trump, Putin stated that this has been invented by those aiming to delegitimize Trump. These people don't understand. They are undermining their own country. They aren't showing respect for Americans that voted for Trump. And finally, concerning the upcoming World Cup event in Russia next year, Putin said that the building of 12 stadiums in 11 cities was on schedule except for one, which had a 2-month delay. Everything will be completed on time, and funding came from both public and private entities. To my knowledge, no one asked about the logo of the World Cup event and whether it was Russia's attempt to softly disclose the existence of our galactic families to the people of Earth. Please, can I have a question or two for Putin? As most would likely say, the format and style of the session, along with the responses by Putin, do not suggest a leader who is on the warpath with the U.S. or the world. This does not necessarily mean that he does not have an agenda. With elitists being taken down, and with resignations and or health issues on the rise amongst sitting U.S. politicians, it would seem clear that a lot of people are scared in the U.S., and there is no reason for Putin to go on any offensive, because the elitists are doing a great job of destroying themselves. In financial news, arguably one of the bigger financial stories for this past week is the announcement by the U.S. Pentagon that there will be a first-ever audit of the Defense Department. RT reported the following on December the 8th. The first-ever financial audit in the history of the U.S. Department of Defense will be massive, requiring 2,400 auditors to review the Pentagon's $2.4 trillion in assets, including personnel, real estate, and weapons. The audit will begin this month, and the Department of Defense announced during a conference on Friday. It is important that the Congress and the American people have confidence in the DoD's management of every taxpayer dollar, Comptroller David Norquist told reporters. He said the DoD's Office of the Inspector General has hired independent public accounting firms to conduct audits of the Air Force, Army, and Navy, as well as a department-wide consolidated audit to summarize all results and conclusions. Beginning in 2018, our audits will occur annually with reports issued on November 15th, said Norquist. As many listeners will know, it was back on September 10th of 2001 when Rumsfeld announced to the world that $2.3 trillion in Defense Department money had allegedly gone missing. In a video link in the show transcript, listeners can watch that video where Rumsfeld announces that there is a Pentagon bureaucracy that has resulted in what he called a life and death situation, and that money wasted by the military posed a severe threat. Of course, that was just for public show because the events that came the day after not only covered up that story, but led to an infinitely greater amount of spending that resulted in an estimated $6.5 trillion missing in 2016 to what is now estimated as being between $10 and $13 trillion in 2017, at least publicly. It may very well end up being much higher than this. Zero Hedge reports on December 15th how the mainstream media suddenly coming out with breaking and exclusive news stories about how vast amounts of weapons sent to Syria by the CIA and in cooperation with U.S. allies contributed to the rapid growth of Daesh, also known as the Islamic State. Another report details how Daesh managed to get a missile that the CIA secretly purchased in Bulgaria. Although this story has been around for quite some time, it is only now that the mainstream media are starting to do their jobs. Other sources have long speculated, and the audit may finally prove this, that funds have been spent on unannounced secret space programs, Solar Warden being one of these alleged programs. It may be revealed that funds have been spent on massive underground cities and transportation networks under the heading of deep underground military bases. It may be revealed that funding has been used to cover up events in Antarctica, for example, or to develop advanced technologies that are of a non-Earth origin. If the audit is done extensively, fairly, and accurately, this one event alone may have the potential to put many formerly secretive subjects very much into the global public spotlight. For President Trump to do what he appears to be attempting to do, one has to be very sure he has support from other circles and very possibly other leaders around the world. He appears to have gone much further than John F. Kennedy was allowed to go before his assassination. Although not conclusive, it would seem to suggest that President Trump has some pretty high-level protection, perhaps even protection, that is out of this world. More articles relating to this story will be in the show transcript. This week, RT is reporting plans by Russia to possibly make use of cryptocurrencies in the oil trade to challenge the sanctions imposed on Russia by the United States. According to the article, the gradual acceptance of digital currencies, with major exchanges about to launch Bitcoin futures trading, may prompt some oil-producing nations to ditch the U.S. dollar in crude trade in favor of cryptocurrencies, an oil analyst has said. Russia, Iran, and Venezuela have more than one thing in common. All three are major oil-producing nations dependent on the dollar since the global crude market is traditionally dominated by contracts denominated in U.S. currency. The article also adds that a decentralized currency allowing anonymous transactions along with blockchain technology to support oil or facilitate oil contracts may be the ideal tool to allow the oil-producing trio to turn their back on the greenback. The advent of cryptocurrencies, therefore, represents a fresh catalyst for commodity-producing countries wishing to abandon the dollar as a means of payment for oil, said Stephen Brennick, oil analyst at PVM Oil Associates, in a research note seen by CNBC. Several oil producers have already voiced plans to ditch the dollar in oil trading. Last week, Venezuela announced it will launch its own cryptocurrency, the Petro, which will be backed by the country's vast natural resource reserves. Venezuela's announcement was covered on last week's newscast. The end of the petrodollar is looming. When asked about China's plans to create oil futures contract in yuan and not U.S. dollars and what impact this would have on the industry and the dollar, Rogers was quoted as saying that this is just another step in that direction. Many people do not like using U.S. dollars because if the U.S. gets angry at you, they just set enormous pressure on you that can even get you out of business. China, Russia, and other countries understand this, and they are trying to move world trade and world finance away from that. As well, on December 4th, RT also reported that the Moscow Stock Exchange will soon issue nearly $1 billion worth of yuan-denominated bonds. It could become the start of a new financial system not based on the U.S. dollar, analysts say. So moves are on to clean out the old and introduce the new. Although cryptocurrencies have exploded onto the global economic scene in a relatively short period of time, at least publicly, another economic vehicle has been quietly moving along and making an impact of its own. An article from China's Xinhua news agency on December 10th has reported that the Belt and Road Initiative will play an important role in improving global governance and countering regional risks, according to Chinese and foreign observers. China will become an increasingly important player in the reform of the global governance system, and the Belt and Road Initiative will be one of its major contributions, said Wang Yiming, Deputy Director of the Development Research Center of the State Council, a government think tank. The joint construction of infrastructure projects has not only driven economic growth in the countries along the Belt and Road, but also helped rebalance globalization by making a bigger cake and dividing the cake reasonably, said Wang. Globalization has created a complex network of interdependency between countries, making stronger regional integration necessary in managing risks, he said, noting that the Belt and Road promotes a political and cultural understanding by integrating countries from at least 3 continents. The expansion of infrastructure in remote regions will be a major driver of stability in Central Asia as well as Eastern Africa, and economic stimulation will be a great opportunity to support long-term recovery in major economies like Europe and China, he told the forum. It offers, referring to the Belt and Road, it offers a new model of prosperity based on inclusiveness, sustainability, and balance, said Wang. So far, about 69 countries, regions, and international organizations have signed agreements relating to the Belt and Road Initiative. At the same time, more countries are exploring their use of cryptocurrencies and also the blockchain technology. The following are some related headlines over the last 3 to 4 weeks relating to Bitcoin, blockchain, and so on. Craigslist plans to allow sellers to accept Bitcoin as more merchants adopt cryptocurrencies. The Australian government invests in blockchain technology. The government of Bermuda launches a cryptocurrency task force. Kazakhstan wakes up to cryptocurrencies. A new bill paves the way for adoption of blockchain by the U.S. government. Malaysian Central Bank to issue cryptocurrency regulations in 2018, and Iranian government plans new infrastructure for Bitcoin users. Links to those stories will appear in the show transcript. What this shows is that there is a very rapid movement taking place in terms of the global economy. It is still unclear whether or not the introduction of cryptocurrencies is an honorable and legitimate attempt to bring power and wealth back to the people, or whether it is a trap to draw people more into the digital world. Arguments can certainly be made for both cases. The fact that the global elitists are losing power and wealth worldwide, these currencies could arguably be used for funding their projects. It is fair to keep this under consideration, however, as long as one uses currencies wisely, there is potential to use the game for one's benefit. For those who are very interested in following the latest cryptocurrency news, there are several websites that one can go to for more information. Cointelegraph.com and Coindesk.com are 2 that listeners may wish to become more familiar with. In disclosure-related news for the week, it appears that an effort is ongoing about the revelations of what really happened with regard to the U.S. moon landing. Both the believers and the non-believers have their own facts to support their own views. As it turns out, they may both be right. An article by Arjun Valia, appearing on the exonews.org website on December 10th, addresses the moon landing issue under the following title: Faking the moon landing is not the conspiracy. It's what really happened after we got there. The article summarizes what are believed to be facts about the lunar landing. Valia writes, "Did we really go to the moon? Yes, we did. However, many of the photos and video footage were faked. Not long ago, the Russian government called for an international investigation into the U.S. moon landings regarding missing samples and photos never released to the public. According to U.S. Army Command Sergeant Major and retired NATO intelligence analyst Bob Dean, NASA erased 40 rolls of film, several thousand individual frames of the Apollo program, including the flight to the moon, the flight around the moon, the landings on the moon, and the astronauts walking around. According to multiple sources, after landing, the Apollo astronauts transmitted that they were being watched by enormous extraterrestrial vehicles. UFO researcher Stephen Greer said that both Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin have separately told me, and they're referring to Greer, that indeed there were numerous large UFOs around the crater where the lunar module landed. Neil Armstrong became somewhat of a recluse after the moon landing and rarely spoke of the historic event. If he spoke about what really happened during the moon landing, Neil Armstrong, his wife, and children would all be killed. NASA employee Ken Johnston said, "While Neil and Buzz were on the lunar surface, Neil switched to the medical channel and spoke directly with the chief medical officer, saying, 'They're here. They're parked on the side of the crater. They are watching us.'" Defense contractor insider William Tompkins claimed that when Armstrong's lunar module landed on the Sea of Tranquility crater, Armstrong said, "There are other ships here, and they are enormous." Armstrong panned his camera in a 360-degree motion all around the crater, and then the CIA then classified the information as way above top secret. UFO researcher Timothy Good says that a former member of MI6 revealed her conversation with Neil Armstrong when he confirmed there were other spacecraft on the moon when Apollo 11 landed in 1969. Armstrong also confirmed the CIA was behind the cover-up. It is my belief that the truth was revealed to us in a TV series that was rather quickly cancelled called Defying Gravity. Although the series told the stories of 8 astronauts and how they came to be selected for a mission that would take them away from Earth for an extended time, the crew begins to learn the real nature of their mission once they are safely away from Earth. Their mission is to collect a series of what appear to be fractal statues. The show was cancelled before the full truth could be revealed, but what was revealed as the ship approached Venus was that astronauts were going to be sent down to the surface to do one thing, while pre-recorded images were going to be sent back to Earth, giving the public a different story. It appears that this is exactly what happened with the Apollo projects, and the truth was being told in a slightly different context. The show canceled several episodes later, so it seemed that the producers and writers were getting a bit too close to the truth. For those with open minds, along with open eyes to see and open ears to hear, they may be observing that a process of soft disclosure has been going on for a number of years, and especially during the last 5 years. This process also appears to be accelerating with several other pieces of news from beyond Earth this week. On December the 11th, Ian Sample reported on a cigar-shaped object spotted by astronauts that has more than a few in the scientific community speculating on its unusual shape. According to Sample, the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia will listen for radio signals being broadcast from a cigar-shaped body, which was first spotted in the solar system in October. The body arrived from interstellar space and reached a peak speed of 196,000 miles per hour as it swept past the sun. Scientists on the Breakthrough Listen project, which searches for evidence of alien civilizations, said the Green Bank Telescope would monitor the object, named Oumuamua, from Wednesday. The first phase of observations is expected to last 10 hours and will tune into 4 different radio transmission bands. Most likely, it is of natural origin, but because it is so particular, we would like to check if it has any sign of artificial origin, such as radio emissions, said Avi Loeb, professor of astronomy at Harvard University and an advisor to the Breakthrough Listen project. If we do detect a signal that appears artificial in origin, we will know immediately. The article continues. While many astronomers believe the object is an interstellar asteroid, its elongated shape is unlike anything seen in the asteroid belt in our own solar system. Early observations of Oumuamua show that it is about 400 meters long, but only 1/10 as wide. It's curious that the first object we see from outside the solar system looks like that, said Loeb. The name of the unusual celestial entity is a Hawaiian word meaning messenger, and this alone hints that this entity may be more than what is being revealed publicly at this time. Some sources have described that some members of our galactic families as having ships that are cigar-shaped and this may be part of the reason for the intrigue in this particular entity. It may also be a form of soft disclosure, as you will hear in the next story. Also in the last week or two, another report has come out with a scientist declaring that the anti-gravity space vehicles of the U.S. are made with extraterrestrial technology. For most, this will not be a surprise at all. This is pretty much a given. CVN has reported numerous times in the past of the existence of anti-gravitational transportation being developed at Avro Aviation in Canada, the company that produced and built Canada's Avro Aero, in what was the world's most advanced aircraft at the end of the 1950s, before being suddenly scrapped, destroyed, and all employees were split up and sent to different divisions, including NASA. This new article, however, appeared on December 7th on the alienblog.org website and writes the following. Dr. Richard Boylan, doctorate of behavioral science, an anthropologist, an associate professor, clinical hypnotherapist, consultant, and researcher, claims to have worked for over 15 years with people reporting having found intelligent extraterrestrial life forms. He also says the government is aware of these extraterrestrial visitors. Boylan claims to know about exotic artifacts, meaning military aircraft with extraterrestrial technology that includes anti-gravity technology. The scientist also claims that he knows 12 of these aircraft built with alien technology, and then gives more details of those craft in the article. It also provides key data about the contact between humans and stellar visitors, all silenced by the global protection system. Boylan was quoted as saying that, scientifically and clinically, I have been working for over 15 years with people who report having found an intelligent extraterrestrial life form from a visiting star. During this work, I felt that it was necessary to learn as much as possible about the real UFO reality and what the government already knew about those visitors. Because of the abundant information about the visitors of the stars and their meetings with humans, I began publishing my results, making presentations at national and international congresses, magazines, and special media interviews, which in turn has attracted the attention of some figures, now or before, to highly ranked government sectors, military institutions, and intelligence agencies, said Boylan. For many years, Boylan has been speaking out on topics related to this. More specifically, however, and this is related to the previous story of the cigar-shaped celestial body in our solar system, Boylan has also made the claim in 2013 that the U.S. has in its possession 8 cigar-shaped ships that are part of one of the secret space programs known as Solar Warden. According to the article from 2013, on July 21st of 2011, when Space Shuttle Atlantis landed at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida and headed to a museum, we were told that the U.S. no longer had any space-capable vehicles and that we would have to rely on Russia and other countries to get into orbit and visit the space station. That was a lie. In actuality, since the late 1980s, the U.S. has contributed to a secret space fleet, its program codenamed Solar Warden, and which has now grown to 8 cigar-shaped motherships, each of them longer than 2 football fields end-to-end, and 43 small scout ships, asserts Boylan. The article adds that the Solar Warden Space Fleet operates under the U.S. Naval Network and Space Operations Command, formerly Naval Space Command, headquartered in Dahlgren, Virginia. There are approximately 300 personnel at NNSOC's Dahlgren facility. In an article from his website, believed to be in 2005, Boylan describes having knowledge of 12 different types of craft, which I explained moments ago, some of which are now publicly known, including the stealth bomber and a few others. He claims these ships have been reverse engineered from ET technologies. So the fact that an unusual cigar-shaped celestial body is announced as being near Earth, and that sources are attempting to study it and have contact with it, creates an interesting storyline towards the disclosure of our galactic families. Could this be an attempt to get ahead of the disclosure issue before Russia brings it into the spotlight at next year's World Cup, for example. Over to some technology news now. I've come across an intriguing piece of technology that requires some more research, but felt for sharing this week with listeners. A website called IamCicada.com is claiming to have developed the ultimate decentralized internet with many bonus features that may appeal to those who are standing up for global peace. According to one of the website pages, we started off with a crazy idea from a sci-fi novel. What if we could build a totally decentralized, secure, private internet right on top of the old one? Then, after 12 months of intensive design work, we realized we can actually build this thing. Cicada takes advantage of the evolving blockchain technology, writing the following. The Cicada project ends long-standing weaknesses of distributed application platforms, solves the 51% problem, ends proof-of-work energy waste, ends the ASIC race, ASIC race. It ends the centralization of mining, and it ends the debate over 2 megabyte versus 8 megabyte blocks. The website continues. The foundation of the system is a pluggable, decentralized, people-controlled universal ID called the HUID, or Human Unique Identifier, that is unique to every person on the planet. Some of the security features include the following. Info wallets, which allow Cicada to create unlimited sub-ID tokens that grant role-based access control to your personally identifying information. Give a sub-ID to a website with only your email or name and revoke it when you no longer want them to have it. Websites no longer need to know everything about you. This will likely end widespread data breaches, because if the data isn't stored centrally, there's nothing to steal. Cicada has a brand new proof of work called a distributed proof of work, DPOW, that is incredibly energy and storage efficient, able to run on a cell phone without draining the battery or hogging memory and requiring no specialized ASICs. A distributed hash table, DHT, of historical blockchain transactions eliminates storage issues because miners are no longer required to keep a copy of the entire blockchain. That means it doesn't matter how big the block size is because nobody will have to store them at all. At the same time, the DPOW has a great side benefit. Since everyone is eventually drafted to the network, that means everyone gets a consistent stream of coins. In other words, it delivers a practical universal basic income right now. The blockchain pays everyone to secure it. This is something society desperately needs to deal with the rise of automation. People no longer need to find a way to get coins to use the network. The coins come to you. Barriers to entry are destroyed and cryptocurrencies can spread like wildfire. As well, Cicada may have a foundational platform for future democratic voting. The website writes that even with a universal ID system, Cicada delivers true anonymous voting via blind tokens and mixnets, all while delivering end-to-end verifiable voting. The latest American election exposed the deep cracks in the foundation of our democracy, but we can rebuild it better than it was before, together. Cicada appears to be attempting to deliver a product that can empower people to create and support a framework for civilization legislation. The website offers that it fixes the broken systems we have today, such as in California, where the only proposals to get through are watered down or bought and paid for by big money. Anyone can put forth a proposal to Cicada, but only useful proposals will ever make it to a national vote. Each proposal is routed randomly to a small group of people. If it doesn't get enough votes, it dies. If it gets voted down, it never goes anywhere. Only if the majority likes it, the proposal passes to the next stages, ever-increasing groups of more and more voters. Only the best ideas will ever make a national vote. Bad ideas die. Good ideas live. Simple. Nobody can buy their way to the top. Potential legislation will be verifiable by a panel of experts. The website states that today's politicians draft laws on things they don't understand. A bunch of former lawyers know nothing about economics or technology issues, so why should we trust them to create laws that make any sense? Cicada allows us to call on expert panels. Parallel teams of experts draft legislation that gets fast-tracked to national vote. Let experts make policy, not lawyers. As opposed to the corrupt and dysfunctional system of commercial admiralty law that currently infects our politics and finances, Cicada is claiming to offer an XML-based law. Today's laws are confusing and contradictory. 200 years of lawmaking has led to inconsistencies and loopholes. The Cicada XML-based law system includes conflict resolution and automatic sunsetting, or superseded or conflicting laws based on new ones passed. Cicada is also doing something else that appears to be unique. According to the website, every DAPP platform out there that is a currency first and platform second, Cicada flips that concept on its head. It's a platform, then a currency. Why does that matter? Because with other DAPP systems, you need to get some of their proprietary money to do anything. Run out of money, and you're stuck until you get more. But some things should just be free. Cicada introduces action tokens, generated dynamically based on use. Action tokens let you do stuff on the network for free. Want to form a local club and vote on things? That's free. If it's free in real life, it's free on Cicada. Multiple cryptocurrencies compete on the network, and only transactions that have real value cost money. In today's technological world, we are seeing more distributed denial of service attacks, or DDoS attacks, on networks. The website explains how they intend to handle it. Cicada is an overlay network that uses a modified Cademelia networking protocol, the one that powers BitTorrent, with a genetic algorithm and reputation system built in. The protocol automatically flags misbehaving nodes and limits them for bad behavior, logging all its actions to an auditable blockchain. Continued bad behavior sees nodes removed from the network. It also decentralizes the domain name system, or DNS. Because DNS entries are replicated out to a distributed DNS blockchain, sites will survive even if attacks attempt to bring down the resilient naming system. They also claim to have a foundation that will end crypto wars and censorship through their peer-to-peer technology. If, by any chance, the elitists attempt to take down the national power grid, the system survives even if the internet goes down or is cut off. It falls back to peer-to-peer mesh networks to stay alive. As long as enough people still have their device, Cicada will survive. The idea sounds very positive and intriguing. A white paper has been produced by Cicada with more technical and background information. Some of the topics that are addressed in the white paper include the following: a blockchain of blockchains, distributed end-to-end e-voting system design, a formal approach to designing anonymous software, a survey of distributed artificial intelligence, alternative to proof-of-work consensus in consensus protocols, biometric encryption, massive scale peer-to-peer network concepts, decentralized exchange with faster transactions than Visa, blockchain-backed voting, democracy operating system, and many, many other topics for those who are more technical about this kind of information. If everything about Cicada is true, accurate, and created with integrity for humanity and the planet, this could become a game-changing tool. Links to various pages on the website will appear in the show transcript. CVN may have more to report on this potential tool for human empowerment and global change in upcoming newscasts. Another small piece of technology is claiming to benefit humanity, but this is an idea that is more social in its nature. CVN reported at least a year ago on an earpiece that had the capability to translate languages almost instantly. According to the company website, Waverly Labs is an innovative consumer products company created in 2014. Waverly Labs is developing a smart earpiece at the convergence of wearable technology and speech translation, and it's called Pilot. Developing the world's first smart earpiece language translator, Pilot uses the latest technologies in speech recognition, machine translation, and wearable technology to allow users to converse without language barriers. Being lost in translation has happened to everyone, even us, but that's exactly how the idea was born, according to the website. Pilot includes a second earpiece for audio and a mobile app, which toggles between languages. It's a dream of a life untethered, free from language barriers. The language technology is explained the following way. The Pilot translating earpiece uses specially designed noise-canceling microphones to filter out ambient noise from the speech of someone talking. The speech is then passed through the Pilot app, where layers of speech translation technology occur. Waverly Labs' translation engine is a hybrid system which relies on the latest statistical-based speech translation technologies from multiple sources. The translation process includes speech recognition, machine translation, and machine learning, then speech synthesis. At the end of the funnel, the translated language is sent to the other user wearing the second earpiece. It all occurs simultaneously without interruption as each person speaks to one another. For voice translations, the device currently offers 5 languages: English, French, Italian, Portuguese, and Spanish. The upcoming plans include the Germanic languages, Hindi, Hebrew, Slavic, and East Asian languages. For mobile devices, a Pilot speech translator app will also allow for texting translations in German, Russian, Mandarin, Chinese, Japanese, Arabic, Korean, and Hindi. At this time, the app does not have ads and is being provided free and includes other benefits as well. My request has been submitted to Waverly Labs, offering to test the device and report on it in an upcoming newscast. Hopefully a response will be received in the near future, as it would be very practical for me as a journalist to be able to test and determine its efficiency and practicality. The earpieces are marked at the usual price of US $300, but the company is accepting pre-orders now at $249. Links to other pages to the website will be available with more information. Finally, in health-related news, another Facebook executive breaks down. An article appearing in the London Guardian on December 12th writes that a former Facebook executive has said he feels tremendous guilt over his work on tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works, joining a growing chorus of critics of the social media giant. Chamath Palihapitiya, who was vice president for user growth at Facebook before he left the company in 2011, said, "The short-term, dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how social society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth." The remarks, which were made at a Stanford Business School event in November, were just surfaced by tech website The Verge on December the 11th. Palihapitiya was quoted as saying that this is not about Russian ads, he added. This is a global problem. It is eroding the core functions of how people behave by and between each other. Palihapitiya is hoping to use his Facebook money to do something better in the world. He commented that he can't control them, referring to Facebook, but he can control his own choices and those of his children. Those choices do not include Facebook. Palihapitiya called out to his audience to do some soul-searching about one's relationship to social media. He stated that your behaviors, you don't realize it, but you are being programmed. It was unintentional, but now you got to decide how you're going to give up how much of your intellectual independence. As well, it was just over 1 month ago. One of the former presidents of Facebook also seemed to lash out at the previous employer. According to a London Guardian article from November 9th, Facebook's founders knew they were creating something addictive that exploited a vulnerability in human psychology from the outset, according to the company's founding president, Sean Parker. Parker was speaking as a representative of his current company at an Axios event in Philadelphia. When asked about his former employer related to health, Parker seemed to have a lot to say. Parker was quoted as saying, "It literally changes your relationship with society, with each other. It probably interferes with productivity in weird ways. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. It's a social validation feedback loop, exactly the kind of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with because you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology." These are, of course, some of the numerous examples and give more validation regarding CVN's recent story about technology gurus like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs who would not let their kids near technology until at least 14 years of age. An October 6th article, also from The Guardian, starts out reporting this. Google, Twitter, and Facebook workers who helped make technology so addictive are disconnecting themselves from the internet as they are alarmed by a race for human attention. It features Facebook executive Justin Rosenstein, who began banning himself from social media applications and began criticizing the Facebook like button. Why would he do this? After all, he is the one who invented the like button. He describes the like button as bright dings of pseudo-pleasure, leading to addiction. This article notes that Rosenstein belongs to a small but growing band of Silicon Valley heretics who complain about the rise of the so-called attention economy, an internet shaped around the demands of an advertising economy. The concerns are obvious. The article continues, there is a growing concern that, as well as addicting users, technology is contributing towards so-called continuous partial attention, severely limiting people's ability to focus and possibly lowering IQ. One recent study showed that the mere presence of smartphones damages cognitive capacity, even when the device is turned off. Everyone is distracted, Rosenstein says, all of the time. The article notes that those concerns are trivial compared with the devastating impact upon the political system that some of Rosenstein's peers believe can be attributed to the rise of social media and the attention-based market that drives it. Drawing a straight line between addiction to social media and political earthquakes like Brexit and the rise of Donald Trump, they contend that digital forces have completely upended the political system and, left unchecked, could even render democracy as we know it obsolete. Maybe that is why Cicada is developing its platform. James Redfield, author of the Celestine Prophecy, stated in that book that the root of all conflict in the world is linked to the competition for precious human energy. With all the pedophilia relations coming out now, this competition may be more than the control of energy, but also of the body. Technology is just another one of those distractions that separates humanity. I'll have more to say on this coming up in this week's Final Words. As CVN supports this assessment and agrees that people need to get off their computers and get out and spend more time doing social activities and personal interactions with others. One of the biggest questions that comes up when discussing the legalization of cannabis and the benefits of hemp for the global economy is the concern that hemp will get people high. There are differences between hemp and cannabis, as well as hemp CBD and cannabis CBD. CBD refers to cannabidiol, the more medicinal component of the plant. While hemp oil is legal to be purchased in supermarkets all over North America, cannabis oil is subjected to much stricter controls. With Big Pharma attempting to get control of the cannabis industry in North America as well, there are many more concerns to consider when purchasing cannabis. An article from October 6th, appearing on the International High Life website, offers the following. With the opportunity for imposter products and even toxic additives, it's important to understand the differences and make an educated decision before buying any product. It is important to understand the difference between cannabis and hemp. And the article explains the following. Marijuana and hemp are the same species of plant, Cannabis sativa, which doesn't make explaining the difference any easier. A common misconception refers to hemp as the male sex of the Cannabis sativa. This simply isn't true according to the article. Hemp has both male and female plants, the same as marijuana. Just as with marijuana plants, the female hemp plant produces the goods, in this case, seeds and fibers. However, the actual differences are more complex and lie in several categories. The article notes the differences in chemical composition. While the molecule of cannabidiol, or CBD, is exactly the same whether it is extracted from hemp or cannabis, the overall cannabinoid content makes a difference in the separation of hemp and cannabis plants. Industrial hemp is required to have less than 0.3% THC by specific government regulations, while medicinal-grade cannabis can reach 30% or more in ideal growing conditions. On the other hand, industrial hemp is also relatively low in producing CBD, with an average around 3.5%, yet medicinal-grade cannabis can reach 20% or more in CBD content depending on genetics and stringently controlled environmental conditions. In addition, hemp doesn't have the same terpene profile as cannabis, which plays a role in the effects of cannabis both medicinally and recreationally. Even in appearance, hemp and cannabis do not compare. Hemp is taller, lighter in color, with thinner leaves, and plants are grown closely together, which makes the plant look bamboo-like in appearance. From a distance, the flowers can appear similar, but hemp flowers are bursting with seed pods, while medicinal cannabis plants are usually bursting with white, glistening trichomes. Cannabis plants are usually a full, darker green plant, which more resembles a small tree or bush. Difference in chemical composition are partly determined by how it's grown. The article writes that industrial hemp is grown in large outdoor fields, planted by machinery, and harvested with tractors. This crop is relatively easy to grow and takes little maintenance. In fact, industrial hemp isn't held to the same cultivation standards as regulated cannabis, so be aware, many could contain contaminants and toxins. This article offers a hint as to why hemp oil is legally and widely available in supermarkets. As CVN has reported previously, the article writes that hemp is a bioaccumulator, meaning it draws the toxins out of the soil it's grown in. With little testing required for dietary supplements by FDA standards, many CBD hemp oils, especially those grown in other countries, could contain dangerous chemical toxins left behind by pesticides and herbicides used during the season. By comparison, the article notes how medicinal cannabis is grown in very controlled environments, under the loving care of master growers. Of course, this may not include growers who are controlled by Big Pharma. Master growers who properly nurture their crops use delicate blends of nutrients along with specific lighting systems to produce cannabis with specific cannabinoid yields. Looking at the extraction process, the article writes that because the amount of CBD found in hemp is much less than that found in CBD-rich cannabis, it takes a large amount of material to produce a small amount of CBD hemp oil. Plus, by federal regulation, the extraction must come from stalks and seeds only, whereas cannabis CBD is extracted from the flowers of the plant, where the cannabinoid content is the highest. Most extraction methods require the use of solvents, which can leave residue behind in the final product. Again, without testing standards supplied by a regulated cannabis market, there's a risk of many harmful byproducts slipping into the dietary supplement market. There are many ways in which uneducated people can get tricked into buying cannabis that they may believe will achieve their healing goal, but the plant may not contain all that is necessary. This may or may not have been done by intentional design or those seeking to control the market. The article reports that many of the products available online claim 100% pure CBD oil. By extracting the CBD molecule alone, consumers are missing out on other vital terpenes and cannabinoids from the plant, which work with CBD to produce its amazing healing benefits. Science has shown cannabinoids and terpenoids behave differently together than they do alone. This is called the Entourage Effect, a synergistic relationship between various compounds within the plant which work together to produce enhanced effects or benefits. Armed with this knowledge, many CBD oil manufacturers are starting to produce full-spectrum, whole plant extracts, which include other cannabinoids such as CBN, CBG, and CBC. These cannabinoids are found in smaller quantities in the plant, but all have their own set of medicinal properties. Research has shown CBN is excellent for insomnia, while CBG and CBC are powerful antibacterial and antifungal agents with promise of fighting treatment-resistant infections like MRSA, according to a study published in the 2008 in the Journal of Natural Products by researchers at the University of London. CBD is CBD, regardless of what plant it is extracted from. The molecule doesn't change. However, regulations and federal government requirements, along with how it's grown and how it's processed, is really what defines the differences between CBD hemp oil and cannabis-derived CBD oil. Hemp CBD is less efficient, taking much more plant material to produce the same amount of product, plus it may be missing other vital terpenes and cannabinoids, or worse, it may be contaminated due to industrial farming practices or chemically laden soil. It is for this reason that it is wise to do as much research as possible to better understand the origins of the CBD oil and or supplements you wish to buy to ensure you are getting the best product for your own personal health needs. Just before this week's final words, I would like to thank a few of you who have answered the call to support CVN at this time. There have been a few first-time donations coming in, and I am grateful to you for choosing to share a bit of support with the newscast. The monthly donations currently sits around US $100, which is not enough to support me in offering the newscast. 2 people have canceled their monthly donations, and I do understand that my schedule in offering the newscast has been erratic over the last 6 months. I am working on other options for my future to provide either the support for this work or to find other work that will allow me to serve in another way. Those who have donated will receive an acknowledgement from me in the coming week or so. So thank you to Judy, Madeline, Sue M., Greg, Kathleen, Tim, Denise, Stephan, Paul, Sue A., Alan S., Antje, Michael M., Lisbeth, Vicky, Edward, Thomas M., Elaine, Thomas L., Francis, Gui, DL, Lori, Nadia, Martina, Deborah, Leanne, Jeffrey, Sandra, Alan B., Thomas C., Merrick, Barbara, and G. consignments. As a reminder, if there is anyone who wishes to donate Bitcoin or use another way, please contact me and I will do what I can to set that up. In this week's final words, when it comes to all the gender-related attention over the last year or two especially, I cannot help but wonder if we are all being played. There appears to be a very thin line between being uniquely different but also equally beautiful in humanity's oneness. This group that I have been calling the Global Cabal, including all its smaller factions covering all parts of our global society, is as much a part of me and of you as everything else. I have commented on this previously, so I will not say anything more than this, except that we have to remind ourselves as we stand up for global peace, healing, and change, that we have to keep in mind that we were many souls who agreed to step into this extreme veil of darkness and separation so that humanity could have this experience of awakening that we are now moving through. As difficult as it may seem, we do have to try our best to remember them with love, for they chose to forget who they were so deeply that we almost allowed ourselves to be pulled into that cesspool of darkness once again. It appears to have been very close. We almost lost ourselves again. Thankfully, with the awakening of millions across our planet at this time, and also with help from forces known and unknown on and beyond our planet, humanity seems to be breaking free from these bonds of historical enslavement. In this holiday season of love and peace, I choose to remember them all with love and gratitude. Have I enjoyed this journey of awakening? There have been times when I have not enjoyed it at all, but there have been other times when it has been great fun. There have been times when I have wanted to lash out in anger at others, and there have been times when I wished I had shown more compassion and forgiveness. There are times when I wish more compassion and forgiveness had been shown to me in certain things in my past. We have all been everything through many lifetimes. At least this is what I choose to believe, although I will not ask you to believe this as well. Our compassion stems from our DNA memories of having been good, bad, evil, wealthy, poor, white, black, brown, yellow, red, Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, Christian, straight, gay, strong, weak, healthy, ill, abused, educated, uneducated, or whatever other criteria of separation you can think of. Here is what is on my mind this week. I have written and spoken in the past about how this cabal group is infamous for playing both sides of a conflict. Regardless of what the masses think is happening, the same controlling force has always been on the winning side. Conflicts have been set up by the enslavers of humanity to make us think that we are free or democratic or whatever, simply because we are compared to others who are controlled slightly more for the purposes of this enslavement agenda. We have identified this Khazarian Jewish mafia as being one of the primary groups responsible for the global enslavement. They have identified themselves as God's chosen people. Here's the irony. They may very well be correct, however, not for the reasons they may think. The souls that chose to incarnate into this group chose to do so knowing that they were going to fall into deep darkness for the purposes of giving humanity and our planet an intense challenge of remembering who we are through all the experiences of who we are not. They may have been chosen for this very special purpose. However, that knowing became corrupted to a point where these souls were not strong enough to awaken, and they continued to take humanity and our planet further and further down a path of enslavement, fear, separation, debt, and control. They became believers that they were the chosen people to lead and control the planet, and not the believers that they may have been the chosen people to give humanity and our planet an experience for a certain period of time before awakening. They did not awaken. Maybe they were not supposed to until now. Certain sources have been saying that this level of enslavement upon our planet was supposed to start ending near the end of the 1990s. 9/11 was a step backwards into fear and separation, and most humans fell for it. It has now been exposed that individuals like George Soros have been funding movements across the U.S. and worldwide for global destabilization. In the spiritual movements, we believe that we are one and that we should be accepting the feminist movement, the Black Lives Matter, the LGBTQ movement, the refugee movement, the Save the Whales movement, the democracy movement, and infinite other movements. There is even a war on men and women. I'd like to refer for a moment to the recent attention given to Willow Smith, daughter of Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. Willow recently chose to get a buzz haircut, and the internet world went crazy, perhaps due to this whole transgender issue that seems to be breaking out. In a recent article appearing on the Intent blog on December 6th, Pinkett Smith defends her daughter's choice, but spoke to the bigger issue that was not being addressed. She was quoted as saying the following: "How is man to recognize his full self, his full power, through the eyes of an incomplete woman? The woman who has been stripped of goddess recognition and diminished to a big ass and full breasts for physical comfort only. The woman who has been silenced so she may forget her spiritual essence because her words stir too much thought outside of the pleasure space. The woman who has been diminished to covering all that rots inside of her with weaves and red-bottom shoes. I am sure the men who restructured our societies from cultures that honored women had no idea of the outcome. They had no idea that eventually even men would render themselves completely empty and longing for meaning, depth, and connection. There is a deep sadness when I witness a man that can't recognize the emptiness he feels when he objectifies himself as a bank and truly believes he can buy love with things and status. It is painful to witness the betrayal when a woman takes him up on that offer. He doesn't recognize that the creation of a half woman has contributed to his repressed anger and frustration of feeling he is not enough. He then may love no woman or keep many half women as his prize. He doesn't recognize that it's his submersion in the imbalanced warrior culture where violence is the means of getting respect and power as the reason he can break the face of a woman who bore him 4 children. When woman is lost, so is man. The truth is, woman is the window to a man's heart, and a man's heart is the gateway to his soul. Power and control will never outweigh love. May we all find our way." And those words were from Jada Pinkett Smith. There's a bit of irony to this. A reminder from James Redfield, author of The Celestine Prophecy, where attention goes, energy flows. In our desire to be spiritually and morally correct, I wonder if we have also been conned into perpetuating the opposite. The global cabal has been great at cheating us by using their subtle agendas to get us to spend more hard-earned money, precious time, and vital life energies to support all these various movements, while diverting us from the fact that they have created the very social conditions that require these movements. Let me be very clear at this point. These movements have served a purpose, but we have to overcome the agenda behind the movements. Let us look at the internet as an example. It was built as a tool for our continued enslavement and addiction. They did not anticipate that people would actually use the internet for education and learning about their enslavement, nor did they expect that certain humans would actually become awakened and empowered enough to use this tool against them. They expected us to be grateful for the gift, not use it against them. This is similar to the various movements. The difference, however, is that the internet is impersonal. All the movements on numerous levels play on the emotions of humans, and people become more defensive because the issue somehow feels more personal to them. To their ego, yes, but to the soul level, I might say no. As long as we continue to get emotionally charged and fired up, giving our energies to various movements, we are feeding the energies of those who thrive from and profit on the separation, fear, debt, and control of humanity. Things are very close to getting out of hand. Yes, there may come a time when certain conflicts are necessary for humanity to defend itself. Unfortunately, if this happens, it will have happened because humanity did not learn its lessons quickly enough. There are allegedly souls who are ready to fight and die for humanity and the future of our planet. Why did we allow it to even get to this point in the first place? Were our egos so inflated that it was more meaningful to spend our time, energies, and money on all these movements, while not seeing, or perhaps ignoring, the real source of the problem? Were we so fearful of not standing up or speaking out because we were afraid of what our neighbors might say or think? Were we so focused on playing the cabal game of working 8 to 18 hours a day, 5 to 7 days of the week, 320 to 360 days of the year? Were we so distracted at living as a corporate entity that we willingly chose to forget our humanity? Create a beautiful and compassionate week until our next moment of now. So that is a sample of the unfolding higher consciousness news around the world this week. Cosmic Vision News is broadcast weekly, and a transcript of this broadcast with all supporting links are published in the show summary on the CosmicVisionNews.com website. CVN can be followed on numerous social websites, including Minds, Unseen, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm Jeffrey West, reminding you that difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations. Until our next moment of now, may you be guided and protected in your service to humanity and our planet. Namaste.